We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph and Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 36a. On the previous Amud, Abaya said that when it comes to Misas Bezdin, which the Gemara here refers to as Ritzicha, so Abaya argued that Misas Bezdin should not be Docha Avoda. And the reason why Misas Bezdin should not be Docha Avoda is because we know Misas Bezdin is not Docha Shabbos, and we know Avoda, specifically talking about Avoda with Karban Sibor, that is Docha Shabbos, and so therefore certainly Misas Bezdin should not be Docha Avoda. That's what Abaya argued, and then the question was, if that's true, what do we do with the pasuk of Me'im Mizbechi Tikachenu Lamos? That seems to imply that Misas Bezdin is Docha Avoda, and Abaya said that's talking specifically about Avoda by Karban Yochid. Misas Bezdin is Docha Avoda by Karban Yochid. That's learned from the pasuk of Me'im Mizbechi Tikachenu Lamos, but when it would come to Avoda of Karban Sibor, that actually would be Docha Misas Bezdin. Misas Bezdin would not be Docha Karban Sibor. And so Rava now is in the middle of arguing against Abaya, and Rava is saying, if you're going to make a Kal V'chomer that says that Misas Bezdin is not Docha Avoda by Karban Sibor, I can make the exact same Kal V'chomer that Misas Bezdin is not Docha Avoda by Karban Yochid. And Rav over here continues, My Yomtiv Shenidchem Ibnei Karban Yochid, because we know that Yontiv is pushed off because of Karban Yochid. Karban Yochid is able to push off Yontiv. And Ein Ritzicha Docha, so, and we know that Misas Bezdin is not Docha Yontiv. So Karban Yochid should Doches Yontiv, so Karban Yochid again, which is Docha Yontiv, Ein Odin Shalote Ritzicha Docha, so shouldn't it be true that Misas Bezdin should not be able to be Docha Karban Yochid either. You're trying to say that the pasuk of Me'im Mizbechi is saying that Misas Bezdin is Docha Karban Yochid, but your exact same Kal V'chomer can be used to say that Misas Bezdin is not Docha a Karban Yochid. And Rashi explains, Ein Ritzicha Docha Oso, the Ein Ben Yontiv L'Shabbos Ala Ochel Nefesh B'Lavad. There's no difference between Yontiv and Shabbos except for Ochel Nefesh, except for the preparation of food, the preparations having to do with Yontiv, and therefore obviously Ritzicha is not going to be Docha Yontiv. Obviously Misas Bezdin is not Docha Yontiv, just like it's not Docha Shabbos. To have Yontiv Nami Kol Malacha Lo Sasek, because by Yontiv also it says that you can't do Malacha. And the Gemara continues, now this works according to the one who says, Ein Nedarim Unedavos Kraven B'Yomtiv, meaning to say, there is a Mandamer that says that Karban Yochid is not Docha Yontiv. That's what it means, Ein Nedarim Unedavos Kraven B'Yomtiv. This entire argument of Rava is built on the fact that Karban Yochid is Docha Yontiv, but there's a Mandamer that says that Karban Yochid is not Docha Yontiv. Mandamer Nedarim Unedavos Kraven B'Yomtiv, but according to the one who says that Nedarim and Nedavos are offered on Yontiv, Karban Yochid is Docha Yontiv. So again, Ma'ikal Amemra, what are you going to say? Because then you'll have to make the exact same Kal V'chomer and say that Karban Yochid is also Docha Misas Bezdin. And Rashi explains, Hanicha maskana demilse deravi. This is all the conclusion of Rava's argument. Hanicha l'mandamer nedarim unedavos ein kraven b'yomtiv. You can work it out according to the one who says that Karban Yochids, nedarim and nedavos are not offered on Yontiv. Motzis le'ukme me'im mizbechi v'karban Yochid. Then again, you could say, like you said, me'im mizbechi is talking about Karban Yochid, to lo dachi lo Shabbos v'lo Yontiv, because again, Karban Yochid is not Docha Shabbos or Yontiv. The sulo mirish Kal V'chomer kedamrin. Then you can't darshan the Kal V'chomer like we said. Ela l'mandamer but according to the one who says that Nedarim and Nedavos are offered on Yontiv, and again that means Karban Yochid is Docha Yontiv, Karban Yochid should certainly be Docha Misas Bezdin. Equal Emerish Kal V'chomer Kedam, when you have that Kal V'chomer, Ulahu Tana Hecha Mukmis, Me'im Mizbechi Upluksai Meseches Beitz. According to that, what are you going to do with Me'im Mizbechi? If you're going to make the same exact Kal V'chomer by Karban Yochid and say that Karban Yochid is Docha Misas Bezdin, what do you do with the pasuk of Me'im Mizbechi? That's the question of Rava. And so the Gemara continues, Elam Rava, rather Rava says, Lo mi boy l'mandamer nedarim unedavos kraven b'yomtiv. We don't even need to say, according to the one who says that nedarim and nedavos, these offerings that are donations, Karban Yochids, that they are brought on Yontiv, that they are Docha Yontiv. So then obviously if they're Docha Yontiv, they're Docha Misas Bezdin as well, if you're going to make that Kal V'chomer. So we have to obviously throw out that whole Kal V'chomer. To halo miskayim me'im mizbechi klal, because if you don't throw out the Kal V'chomer, you're not going to be able to use that pasuk of me'im mizbechi, meaning Rava is saying, we have to use the pasuk of Me'im Mizbechi to say that Misas Bezdin is Docha Avoda, and therefore it has to be that we're not making these Kal V'chomers that you're making, and really, Misas Bezdin is Docha, not only is it Docha Karban Yochid, it's Docha Karban Sibor as well. But even according to the one who says that Nedarim and Nedavos are not offered on Yontiv, and then in theory you might be able to say that Me'im Mizbechi is talking about Karban Yochid, we would say that Misas Bezdin is Docha Karban Yochid, but not Karban Sibor as Abai is arguing, but even according to that man, Rava says it's not true. Haksiv me'im mizbechi, it says in the pasuk me'im mizbechi, and we understand that to mean mizbechi hamiyuchadli, my mizbeach which is dedicated designated for me specific kinds of karbonos. Umayininu, what kind of carbon are we talking about? Tamid, we're talking about the carbon tamid, meaning we are talking in this pasuk about carbon sibur regardless. And this pasuk is saying to forget that kal v'chomer that you are making, that you Abaya are making. Rather, what we say is me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamos misas bezin is doche karbonos like the carbon tamid, even carbon sibur. That's v'yamar achmana me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamos. That's what the pasuk means when it says me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamos. And so therefore Rava is arguing that when it comes to misas bezin is in fact doche all kinds of karbonos, even carbon sibur. And Rashi explains Elama Rava. Rather, Rava says al karchach asa me'im mizbechi va'akre lekal v'chomer. You have to say that the pasuk of me'im mizbechi is uprooting the kal v'chomer, bein mi carbon yachid, bein mi carbon sibur, whether we're talking about carbon yachid, whether we're talking about carbon sibur, delami boy lamadam or craven to kaven the carbon yachid doche yantiv. We don't even need to say, according to the one who says that a carbon yachid is doche yantiv yasis lemidrash kal v'chomer. Then if you're going to make these kal v'chomers lo mesukah me'im mizbechi klal, you won't be able to use the pasuk of me'im mizbechi at all. V'al karchach lo sidish kal v'chomer. Of course, you're going to be forced to say there's no kal v'chomer. V'yasa kravi akre, the pasuk is uprooting that kal v'chomer. But even according to the other mandamar, even if in theory you can say the pasuk is talking about carbon yachid, the lack of kal v'chomer, because there's no kal v'chomer by carbon yachid, over carbon sibur lo bois lo ukma lekram mishum kal v'chomer, and you want to say that the pasuk is not talking about carbon sibur because of the kal v'chomer, but still says Rava al karchach mimashma usay musukam nami b'carbon sibur. Still, from just the reading of the pasuk, the implication of the pasuk, it does seem to be talking about carbon sibur. The mizbechi mashma hamiyuchad li, because the word mizbechi sounds like it's designated for me. Dahainu tamid, that's referring to the carbon tamid. Shu ikar kol ha-karbonos, which is the main one of all of the karbonos. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Dinei mamanis hatameus v'hataharos. When it comes to monetary cases or cases involving tum and tahara, we always start with the greatest of the judges who issues his ruling, and then we go to the lesser judges. And the Gemara says, Omar Rav. Rav says, Ano havoy b'minyana devei Rebbe. I was there. I was one of the judges among those numbered in the yeshiva of Rebbe. Uminoi didi have a mask liberation. They actually began with me. And the Gemara says, why would they begin with Rav? Didn't we say in the Mishnah that we start from the greatest, and Rav was one of the younger judges? And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Breid Rava, Rav the son of Rava says, V'teimer Rabbi Hillel Breid Rabbi Vilas, and some say Rabbi Hillel the son of Rabbi Vilas says, Shani Minyana Devei Rebbe. Was different when they would take the count, the vote in the yeshiva and the bezin of Rebbe. To Kulu Minyonayu Minatzad have a maskli. Over there, they would always start from the side. They would always start from the lesser of the judges. And Rashi says, Minatzad have a mischali mimnei anovi yisera shahisabo, because he was very humble, and that's why they would always start min hatzad. And the Gemara continues, V'yama Rabba Breid Rava, and Rabba the son of Rava says, V'teimer Rabbi Hillel Breid Ravilas, and some say Rabbi Hillel the son of Ravilas says, Mimos Moshe v'yad Rebbe, from the days of Moshe Rabbeinu until Rebbe, lo motzinu Torah gedula b'makam echad. We didn't find that one person had both Torah and great leadership. And Rashi explains b'makam echad, Torasan ugdulasan shel Yisrael b'adam echad, meaning we don't find that both the Torah and the leadership of Klal Yisrael was in one person. She'ein kemoso b'chol Yisrael b'Torah u'v'gedula, that there was no one like him in all of Klal Yisrael in both Torah and Gedula. Kagon Moshe she'yagadol al Klal Yisrael b'malchus, like Moshe Rabbeinu, he was the greatest of Klal Yisrael, meaning he was like the king. U'v'Torah, he was also the greatest in Torah. V'chein Rebbe b'nesiyas u'v'Torah. The same thing is true when it comes to Rebbe, because he was the nasi and he was also the greatest in Torah. And so that's what it's saying. From the times of Moshe until Rebbe, we did not find that. But the Gemara says, V'lo, is that really not true? We didn't find such a thing. Ha'ave Yehoshua, wasn't there Yehoshua? And the Gemara says, Have Elazar, no, because at the same time as Yehoshua, there was Elazar. Elazar was just as great when it came to Torah. The Gemara says, V'ave Pinchas, but what about Pinchas? And the Gemara says, Have Zekanim. The Gemara says, there was the elders at that time. And the Gemara says, V'ave Shaul, what about Shaul? Have Shmuel. The Gemara says, Shmuel was at the same time. But the Gemara says, V'anach Nafshe, but didn't Shmuel die? So there was a time when it was Shaul alone. And the Gemara says, no, Kulu Shnei Kvarmin, and we mean to say all of the years that he was in leadership, and Shmuel did overlap for some time. And the Gemara continues, V'have David, but what about David HaMelech? Wasn't that Torah and leadership in the same person? And the Gemara says, Hava Ira Haya'iri, there was also Ira Haya'iri, who was the same as David when it came to Torah. But the Gemara says, V'nach Nafshe, but didn't he also die? And the Gemara says, Kulu Shnei Kvarmin, and again we're talking about all of the years of his rule. And the Gemara continues, V'have Shlomo, but what about Shlomo? Have Shimi ben Gera, there was Shimi ben Gera at that time. But the Gemara says, V'katli, but he was killed. And the Gemara again says, Kuli Shnei Kvarmin, and we're talking about all of the years of the person's leadership. And the Gemara continues, Have Chizkiah, what about Chizkiah? The Gemara says, Have Shavna, at the same time as Chizkiah was Shavna, Va'iktal, but he was killed. And again, the Gemara says, Kulu Shnei Kvarmin, we're talking about all of his years of leadership. And the Gemara continues, Va'ave Ezra, what about Ezra? Have Nehemiah ben Chakalia, there was Nehemiah ben Chakalia at the same time. Amar Ravada bar Ava says, Afani Omer, I also say, Mimos Rebbe ad Ravashi, that from the days of Rebbe until Ravashi, Lo Matzino Torah Gedula b'makom echad, we don't find Torah and greatness in one person. The Gemara again asks, V'lo, is that really not the case? V'hava Huna bar Nasan, what about Huna bar Nasan? And the Gemara says, Huna bar Nasan mechav havachayif le Ravashi. Huna bar Nasan was subservient to Ravashi. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Dine nefashos maschilin min atzad. When it comes to capital cases, we begin from the side, from the least of the judges. And the Gemara says, Menohani mili, from where do we know this? Amar Ravacha bar Papa says, Amar Krutz, because the pasuk says, Losana al Riv, and we understand that to mean Losana al Rav. You shouldn't answer, you shouldn't dispute the greatest of the judges. And so the idea is, if you started from the greatest of the judges, no one would be able to offer an alternate opinion. And the Gemara continues with another source. Rabba bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan mehacha. Rabba bar Chana says, it's from here, from the following pasuk. Vayomer David la'noshav, and David says to his people, this was talking about by the punishment of Novel. He said, Chigru ish escharbo vayachkru ish escharbo vayachkor gam David escharbo. They all took their swords, and David was the one that did it last. That was talking about a situation, again, of capital punishment, and we see that the greatest, David HaMelech, he was last. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav says, Shona Adam letalmido, a person can teach a student, V'don imo b'dina nefashos, and then that student can judge together with him when it comes to capital cases. Rashi explains, Shona Adam letalmido, Maralo panim lezuchusu lechova b'sochadin, the teacher can teach the student reasons for saying innocence and guilt during the case. V'don imo, and then he can judge together with him, V'nimna imo, he could be counted with him, O lezuchusu lechova, either when it comes to saying innocent or guilty, U'matan hadin al pi ha-talmud ke'echad min hadayanim, the student can be counted just like any one of the judges. The idea is that the student can be considered an independent judge, even though his Rebbe is right there. And the Gemara continues, Mesa, we have the following question from a Braisa, Hataharos v'hatameos, when it comes to issues of Tumah, of Tara and Tumah, Ha'av u'beno, ha'av v'talmido, a father and son, or a Rebbe and student, Monin lohem shnayim, they can be counted as two people, they can be counted separately. Dinei momenes v'dinei nefashos v'dinei makos, kiddush hachodesh v'bor shana, when it comes to monetary cases, capital cases, cases involving lashes, cases involving the sanctification of the new moon, or cases involving the leap year, Av u'veno, ha'av v'talmido, a father and son, a Rebbe and his student, ein monin lohen, ela echad, they can only be counted as one. And Rashi explains, Hatmeos v'hataharos, what is that talking about? Shora'asan b'yachid. That's talking when you're issuing a ruling with regards to something being tamei or tahor. There, an individual can issue the ruling. Ve'ein b'hem minyan, you don't need a certain number of judges. Elim kein cholkin, unless there's an argument. V'tzarech lamod l'minyan, then you're going to have to vote. Imro ha'atmein or ha'tamataran, if you have more people saying tamei or more tahor. So monin es ha'av u'v'no es ha'rav v'talmido v'shnayim. So then, the father and the son, the Rebbe and the student, they can be counted as two separate votes. When it comes to monetary cases, capital cases, cases of lashes, there you need a certain number of judges according to the law. It's from the Torah. This one needs 3 judges. Capital cases need 23. Also, Kiddush HaChodesh needs 3 judges. The Mishpat Ksibbe uses the word Mishpat. Like it says in the pasuk, it says the word Mishpat. And Meseches Rosh Hashanah, we say that pasuk is talking about Kiddush HaChodesh. V'chein Ibur Hashanah, also when it comes to making a leap year, shetzarach shlosha, chamisha v'shiva, you need 3, 5, or 7. Ein ha'av u'v'no ksherin zeh im zeh. So there, the father and son cannot serve as judges together. V'lo harav v'talmido nimnin alechon, and if you have a Rebbe and a student, they can only count as one. V'sefer de Brais, and Rashi says the end of the Brais, lo yesha b'tzido, it says he shouldn't sit by him. Ve'afilu shosek, he shouldn't sit by him, even being silent. El yamod v'holech lo, rather he has to stand up and go. And so in any case, it seems to be from here that when we're talking about dinei nefashos, the student does not count as an additional judge, as an additional vote. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Vav Amid Beis.